Hey guys, and welcome to another tutorial video. Today I'm going to show you how to draw a male body. Yes, it's finally that time, and after my channel got charged up with over 80,000 subscribers, I decided to treat you all with this tutorial. You can also find in my book Manga Crash Course, which is available in French and English languages, and I will be doing one of the tutorials from the book describing it in detail how to draw a typical shonen hero character, male character. So let's begin. First of all, we will use a technique called counting heads. Bam! Yeah, those are heads. And what we will do today is try to imagine a height of one head, our character's head. Look, it looks like Saitama from One Punch Man. We will use 6 heights of our character's head to measure up the parts of his body. And this is a typical character from any shonen title like Full Metal Alchemist, Naruto, etc, etc, etc. So these characters, almost all of these characters are 6 heads tall. These are usually the persons which are not that tall. They are teenagers or young adults, and usually 6 heads is something that we use to draw out typical anime girls, boys, and teens, and even sometimes adult women which are Asian and shorter. But this time we're doing the male body. So we have heads, and each head is numbered. So head number 1 will be our position for the head of our character. There are 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th head. So for our shonen character, all you need to do is draw out a straight upper line, and don't bother yourselves with that line being super visible or super straight, because you will do a lot of detailing later, and these first few lines need to be as barely visible as possible. Also, big thing, always try to make a difference, to make a distance between the edges of the paper. At least have a distance of about 1 centimeter or half an inch between the edge of the paper and the beginning and the ending for the height for your character. This is very important because this place here is the floor, and this is the top of your character's head. And if your character has a bushy hairdo or cat ears or a hat on in the upper part of his body, then that part will be gone off the edges of the paper if you don't make this separation here. Also, this is the part underneath the body where we will be placing our character's feet. So this is a really important thing for you not to make a mistake on. So when doing 6 heads, it's pretty simple to divide this height of our character into 6 equal parts without using a ruler. I don't suggest using a ruler for these things because it's something you will do every time you draw a character, and you won't always have a ruler around. So it's not that complicated. I don't always use this a ruler for something like this. Also, if you're interested in drawing girls, you can check this link and go straight to my half-hour full detail tutorial about drawing girls of the same height. So let's begin. You can cut this line in half, so you just do it, just measure it approximately, nothing specific, nothing special. Then you can split these 2 halves into 3 equal parts. Try to make it equal. It doesn't have to be specific. So try to have this line cut in 2, then these 2 halves are divided into 3 seemingly equal parts. So our next step is to draw our character's head. You can also find how to draw characters faces tutorials in these two links. So check them out for female and for male faces. Okay, let's get back to our character's face. This time we won't do any details on the face. We will just do a simple shape of the head. The important thing is that on the beginning of your straight up line, the head doesn't go anywhere beneath these two dots. So the head number 1 is the exact measurement for the head of our character, and that's it. Head number 1 is just ahead of our character. The second head is a place where we need to place our character's shoulders and neck and chest. So for a male character, you should use a half of the width of their head. So just split the width of their head in two and transfer that width down. So we have this little measurement, we place it underneath the head, and we get how thick our character's neck will be. For male characters, neck is always a bit thicker. For girls, it's always thinner, so remember that. And if you're confused to where you need to end the length of the neck, you can always use head number 2 and try to find a quarter of its height. That's approximately where you need to end these two lines. But at the first third of the head number 2 is a main line where we have our character's collarbones and base for our character's shoulders. Now, if you want to make a character which is a little more buff, you will need wider shoulders. So for wider shoulders and typical shonen shoulders, for a typical shonen shoulder width, you need a width of 1.5 head, so approximately this width. If you want to go into more buffness, then try to add a bit more and transfer that down to get the width, to get the size of the shoulders. I will be using the broader shoulders now, which are like 2 head widths transferred down to the shoulders. Then I will use 2 tiny circles to make a base for the shoulders. Main thing not to get wrong about shoulders is to remember, never draw them as Lego. So this is a no-no. What you need to do is to make 2 slip and slides. Just slide down to the circles and then follow the circle's shape to make naturally looking shoulders. Next up, we have male chest. So chests for this height of a character are located right at the end of head number 2. So what we need to do is maybe make square shape like this. And then if you want to draw a shirtless character, for example, you can always just make a little curvy line on the sides. This is all we will do for the male chest for now, and we need to go and shape out the rest of the body. So next up, we need to figure out where our character's hips are. First of all, the male characters are different from female characters because they have that V shape. So if you ever heard of a V-shaped person or an hourglass person, this is the trick to it. Girls have an hourglass-shaped figure, which has this kind of a shape. But for males, they have this kind of a shape for their torso. So the area of the body which starts from shoulders and ends with the hips. And now this means that the height for our character's crotch area will be at the beginning of head number 3. So we need to make a triangle shape, and this shape has to be more narrow than the chest width. Well, approximately similar, but still a bit more narrow. It definitely goes more narrow than the shoulder width. So be careful. If you make a guy have wider hips, then you're automatically getting a girl character. So now we need to implement a little trick I like to use when I draw male characters, is to go beneath the breast and do a little slimming down, and then use 2 parallel lines to make a torso for a guy. And that's practically it. So next up, we need to know where the base of our legs for our characters are. So the base for the legs, for both feet, well, for both legs, is in this little triangle here. And you need to figure out how to place right where the head number 3 is. So beneath head number 3 and head number 4, this is where the base of our legs is, and the crotch area. And for the rest of the body, we have legs. And if you ever get confused while making maybe more taller characters, for example, if your character has 7 heads, the middle of the body, where the legs begin, will be located at the half of the head. So if you have a 7 head tall person, the middle will be at the 3.5 heads height. If you have a person that has 8 heads, divide that in 2 and you will get where the legs begin. So we have 6 heads and the legs begin at the head number 3. So 6 divided in 2, you get 3. I know, I hate math too, but I had to explain this. So we have 3 heads left until the floor, and we need to cut that in half to get where the knees are. So we have 1, 2, 3 heads in our body, and 3 divided in 2, you get a head and a half for the knees. So 4, 5, and in the middle of the 5th head we have the height for the knees. A natural way to shape male and female legs is not by just drawing straight lines. No. If you ever watch any anatomy book, you will see that our thighs are going a little bit outwards. So you need to shape thighs accordingly. Then we have 2 circles to shape the knees, and then under the knees, the rest of the legs looks like some sort of S shape. So it's not a straight line. Human body is a bit more curvy than that. And for the bottom, and that would be like last quarter of the 6th head, we use 2 triangles to draw out the heels of our character's feet. And for the rest of the foot, that one goes underneath head number 6 because it's a foreshortening. It's something that's something that goes in front of the character, a part of the body that goes in front of the character, and this time we only see feet as the part that's protruding outwards. So you need 2 triangles, and then you shape out the toes in front of the character's 2 triangles. Okay, so let's get back to shaping the legs. There's one important thing you guys need to know when you draw male characters. A lot of female artists, they like to draw male characters, but they have a problem in this area. Please don't draw too high crotch area on the boys like you do on the girls. You always need to have some space underneath this triangle to get a naturally looking character, because I guess all the males that are looking at this video will say ouch if I drew the beginning of the legs right here up here. So you need to draw out somewhere along the lines of after head 3 into the head 4. You need to draw the end of the male character's crotch. And for the shaping of the thighs, try to make them look like two parallel lines, but also give your best to make those parallel lines a bit curvy. So just a little bit curviness will go a long way. As for shaping underneath the knees, I suggest using a reverse droplet shape like this, and using it to shape this part of the feet. Of course, these are just beginner tricks. You will definitely need some practice regarding which kind of a shape you want, because if you want to draw out a sports person, you will need to go out literally and Google or look for body types for different sports, because body changes differently on the type of sports. If it's a skinny character, you will reduce the amount of muscles. If it's a chubby character, you will add some skin. So this is just a basic show of a basic male shonen character body. Okay, so and personally, I prefer drawing people who have a little bit more meat on their bones. Some people prefer drawing bishi boys who are more slim. Some prefer making them a bit girly. So it's up to you. But the same skeleton is definitely something that they all share. So this is just the explanation of the skeleton. And the last thing we lack in this whole thing is the arms. As for the arms, we use height of one head and transfer it down. So we use this, transfer it down to the circle we use for shoulders. And this is where our characters' elbows are. Then we use the height of the head again, transfer it to the elbow. Bam! We have where our characters' wrists are. Then for the boys who have a little bit bigger palms than, hands than the girls, we use 2/3 of the characters, or even maybe 3/4 of the character's head. Transfer that down and make it into a triangle for starters. That's a simplified way to draw entire hands when you plan out your drawing. Because why am I saying plan out? Because this is now literally your own 3D doll you can move around. Because if you use this and just move around this size for the elbow, you can switch the elbow, place it here, and then you can even move this size up here and move this size on top of that, and you will have a character who is waving. So literally you can do a lot of things and move around all of these things when you know how big each part of the body is. Anyway, for shaping male arms, you can use, since these are just boys, you can use 2 parallel lines, just simple parallel lines. And now pay attention, you will notice that I am literally sticking together the chest area and the line for for the hands, well, arms, because this here, this little piece here, underarm, we need to be careful while drawing that, because when the arms are close to the body, they are connected. Try it out with your own arm and you will see what I'm talking about. But when we have a character that has a raised arm, we need to push the shoulder a bit upward. Then we have the two parallel lines I was talking about, but we also have a small triangle here for the underarm. That is how our body normally acts when we raise our arms. So two parallel lines, but when the arm is down, it's connected to the chest, but when it's up, we have a small triangle. And of course, you can also use the droplet shape to shape this part of the arm. Just make it very subtle. Here as well, you can just start with the shape of a droplet, then turn it into more natural looking shape. The only way to perfectly shape a body is to constantly watch people and sketch real life people, then then compare this chart and just add things you like on this chart, because that's manga. Manga is based on real bodies, but still it's so reduced to minimalism that only the things you want to add to this chart, you only need to do that. Okay, so this is our character from the front side view. Now I'll show you the tricks on how to draw a side view for the body. We will do the same thing, exactly the same thing we did for this body. So we have a straight line. We divide it in 6 parts. Head number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And let's begin. For a head number 1, there's a circle shape for the skull, and you can always make a simple skull shape for your character's face from the side. I will definitely try my best to give you a special tutorial on drawing manga faces from the side next time, but this time let's do a whole body from the side and use this shape as the base for the head. So this is the top of the head, this is the top of the chin. That's head number 1. Okay, so head number 2, we need to fit the neck, shoulders, and chest into this. But first of all, I need to show you how the back of the character works. Since we have 6 heads, the third head is the end of the spine. So we need to start from the back of the head. Then we need to make an S shape right here where the shoulders are. So we need to protrude outwards for the shoulders. Then we need to go back inside next to the main line where the waist is, and then we have the booty. As I mentioned in my previous video about female anatomy, this shape is ending in this particular way because evolution used to end this part of our spine with a tail once upon a time. Some people are even born with tails, so keep that in mind while drawing this shape for the spine. It's an S shape. Okay, so on the first third of the second head, we always have the circles for the shoulders. This is very important. You can place them a little bit to the right side of the main line. Next up, you will definitely need to add some skin on top of on top of the spine, and then from the tip of the chin we need to make a parallel line. So the back of the head and the neck, front side of the neck, are as thick as the half of the head's width as we mentioned before. So you use this size, well, half of this circle, and you transfer it down, and two parallel lines which are a bit tilted are the neck from the side. Next up, to avoid mistake from drawing a flat person, you need to figure out how to place the rib cage. Rib cage has this, well, bird cage kind of a shape, and it's very long. If you look at any anatomy textbook, you will see that rib cage is quite a big deal and people are not flat. So the rib cage goes under head number 2, and then you can follow the shape of the spine down here and make it almost a parallel lines here as well. The shaping of the torso from the side is always a bit tricky and will need a lot of practice. It's not something you can easily make to look perfect. That's why a lot of people, and this is the collarbone, as I said in my previous video about drawing breasts, you always need to draw out the rib cage before drawing breasts. But for the guys, it's fairly easy. You just follow the shape of the rib cage and voila. Guys are flat, except if they're chubby. Okay, so next up, we need to transfer this height. So a little before head number 3 is done, we need that triangle for the crotch area, and we need to place right under the circles for the beginning of the hands and arms, and generally where the shoulders are. We need to place the circles to know where our legs will begin. And as I said, so we have 3 heads for the entire legs. We split that in 2, and we have in the middle of head 5 we have the knees. The knees need to make our entire body stand in balance, so we need them to be right in the middle, right on the main straight line we drew at the beginning. And of course, thighs are not straight lines. They protrude outwards. They are curvy. And then for our body to stand in balance, we need our legs to actually form some sort of balance. So this part of the legs goes here, goes outwards in front of the character, and then the lower bone goes behind. And this is how the bones in the human body actually work. And of course, when you want to draw the foot, you can use the height of the entire head and transfer it down, and you get the size of the foot. In my book, I try to draw and show you in detail how to shape feet. You can always use a trapeze looking shape for the heel, and then add a triangle on it. And for the rest of the body, and of course the booty, you will use a protruding line here. You will use a straight line for the back of the thigh, and then you will connect these shapes to make the behind shape. Of course, for the males, as I said, you will need a normal amount of space for the male parts, and you can always add the main bones here, just a shape if you're doing like a handsome or an athletic kind of a body. And we use the reverse droplet shape for this part of the legs, but you can always just continue the thigh with a little bit of a bump for the knees, then just follow the shape of the S-shape lower part of the leg and continue into the shape of the foot. As for the arms, the rules are the same. You just use the height of one head, attach it to the circle of the shoulders, and we have our character's elbow here. Then we use that again, attach it to the elbow, and we have our character's lower arm bone. Then we attach 2/3 of our character's head to that, and we have our character's hand, well, the shape of, well, the size of the hand. The detailed explanation of how to draw hands by using 2 squares are located in my book, but I'll try my best to bring you that tutorial soon as well. Okay, so next up, as I mentioned before, oh yeah, and if you notice, if you look at yourself in the mirror, you will notice that your arms don't go straight as a straight line. No, they always actually go a bit like angled. So the elbow is actually going behind the character, as opposed to the knees, which are going straight in front of the character. And 2 parallel lines that can be used to shape the upper side of the arm. Then we have the elbow, like a little bump, and then we have the reverse droplet shape we use to shape out the rest of the arm. And pretty much that's it. If you like this tutorial, check out my other tutorials in my tutorial playlist. And if you like how I explain things, you can get all of the lessons and processes of creating your own characters and drawing out manga bodies in my book Manga Crash Course, available in English and French languages. Thank you guys so much, and leave comments about what you want to learn, what you want to see, and see you guys next time.